This story unfolds off the coast of Florida, where a quiet Thanksgiving celebration turned into a nightmare the family will never forget. Four relatives set out on a 25-foot catamaran, cheekily named Money Well Wasted, to celebrate a 70th birthday. What none of them knew was that their trip would end with 21 agonizing hours trapped in the open ocean, clinging to a capsized boat, fighting to keep each other alive in the dark. Among them was a 90-year-old uncle, a man far too fragile for the violent conditions they were about to face. When the boat suddenly flipped without warning, the group had no time to react. In an instant, the vessel rolled upside down, tossing everyone into the cold water. With no way to right the craft and no land in sight, all they could do was cling to the overturned hull and hope someone would find them before exhaustion, hunger, or hypothermia took over. One of the survivors later described how he wrapped his arms around the older man, holding him up, refusing to let him slip beneath the water no matter how numb or exhausted he became.
How were you able to keep him safe during all this?
Me just grabbing him, hanging on to him, and holding him up.
21 hours passed. No food, no warmth, no rest. Just the sound of crashing waves and the fear of what might be lurking beneath the surface. Even rescuers said they were stunned the family made it through the night, describing the conditions as extremely dangerous, especially for someone in their 90s.
They were out there for a long time, 21 hours. Were you guys surprised they were able to hang on for that long?
Definitely challenging conditions for them overnight. I can't imagine being on the vessel and watching the sun go down. So definitely a scary situation for them.
When help finally arrived, the relief was overwhelming. All four were alive. Though battered and shaken, the 90-year-old uncle, now recovering in a hospital bed, still bears the marks of those long hours at sea.
I gotta tell you, for being 90 years old, you're one tough guy.
Well, I agree with that myself.
Get well soon.
I'm trying to make 95.
A GoFundMe has since been set up to help with medical costs, but the true miracle is simple. After nearly a full day stranded on an overturned boat in the open ocean, every member of that family lived to tell the tale. A fire breaks out at what witnesses believe to be a chemical facility deep inside Venezuela, and within moments the scene spirals into something far more violent than a simple blaze.
Se quemó, huevón, pero ya se apagó, ya se apagó.
Flames surge upward with an aggressive intensity, feeding on whatever volatile materials are hidden inside the structure. Firefighters rush in, fully suited, thinking they're dealing with a routine industrial fire. Dangerous, yes, but manageable. What none of them expect is that split-second twist that feels almost unreal. Out of the inferno, a metal barrel rockets forward like it's been launched from a cannon, whistling through the smoke and blasting straight toward the firefighters. It doesn't wobble, it doesn't tumble, it shoots forward with terrifying precision, forcing the crew to brace for impact. Their equipment absorbs the blow, but the force alone is strong enough to send a jolt through the entire team. A few inches in another direction, and that barrel would have struck flesh instead of fire-resistant gear. Chemical facilities are notorious for chain reaction blasts, but usually it's the fire that expands outward, not a single rogue barrel flying like a missile toward the only people trying to contain the chaos. What started as a routine patrol in Little Elm on November 25, 2025 quickly turned into one of the strangest encounters an officer had ever faced. As traffic rushed past on a busy roadway, something moved along the shoulder. Something small, pale, and completely out of place. It wasn't a person, and it wasn't debris. It was a lone goat wandering dangerously close to speeding vehicles, as if unaware of how fast its life could end with a single misstep. The officer pulled over immediately, knowing he had seconds before the animal darted into the road. As he stepped out, the wind from passing cars whipped past him, but the goat stood perfectly still, staring at him with an eerie calmness that didn't match the chaos around it. Instead of running, it simply watched him approach, almost as though it expected him. With slow, cautious movements, he coaxed the animal away from the traffic lane and toward his patrol vehicle.
Dude, hey. Hey, goat. Goat. Hey. Where do you live? Little goat guy. Hey, look at this. Look how cool this car is. Get in the car. Yeah, that's good. That's a good goat. Come here. Goat. Hey. Goat, come here. No. No, come here. Hey. Come here. Get in the car. No, you're not gonna ram me. We're not doing that. No, bad.
When he opened the back door, the goat didn't hesitate. It climbed into the cruiser as naturally as a person taking a seat for questioning, settling in like it had done this 100 times before. That's when the officer, trying to break the tension of the bizarre moment, delivered a joking reading of rights, treating the calm creature like a cooperative suspect in a mock arrest.
Go, bad goat. Go in there. Yeah, let's go for a ride. You're one bad mamma jamma. You have the right to remain silent and not make any statements at all. Any statements you make may be used against you at trial. Any statements you make may be used as evidence against you in court. You have the right to have a lawyer present to advise you prior to and during questioning. If you are unable to employ a lawyer, you have the right to have a lawyer appointed to advise you prior and during any questioning. And you have a right to terminate the interview at any time. Do you understand these rights that I have read to you? With these rights in mind, do you still wish to talk to me? You know what, Dylan? Do you want to talk or no? Give me a bad.
Once the animal was secured and safe from traffic, the officer contacted its owner, who arrived shortly after to reclaim it. No one was harmed, and the incident ended harmlessly. On an otherwise peaceful evening in the Indian Ocean, the yacht Lynn Rival rocked gently on calm black water, a tiny moving speck off the coast of the Seychelles. For Paul and Rachel Chandler, this wasn't a vacation. It was a dream they'd built their lives around. They had left behind the predictable comfort of England for something wilder, a slow, deliberate journey across the Indian Ocean, just the two of them against the horizon, but far from land, far from shipping lanes and safety nets. Someone else had taken an interest in them. Long before they ever saw another vessel, they had already been marked. Days earlier, pirates off the Somali coast had noticed a small yacht cutting a lonely path through open water, easy to isolate, easy to corner. While Paul and Rachel watched the sunset and listened to the soft slap of waves against the hull, a second boat was closing in, watching, waiting, closing the distance inch by inch. Before they could process what they were seeing, armed men were already clambering over the rails of the Lynn Rival. They moved with the precision of people who had done this many times before. There were no negotiations, no time to ask questions. The Chandlers were overwhelmed, forced to comply as their own yacht was turned around and pushed deeper into open water, away from the Seychelles, away from any chance of stumbling onto help. Radio silenced, lights controlled, no distress call, no flare, nothing. Within hours, the yacht and its owners had simply vanished. To anyone watching the map back home, their journey had just stopped. No explanation, no trace. For days, Paul and Rachel were prisoners inside the boat that had once been their safe haven. The pirates used the Lynn Rival as a transport, pushing it toward the coast of Somalia, a place the couple only knew as a distant headline. Eventually, the yacht was abandoned and they were shoved into a small skiff, taken ashore like contraband. There were no cells, no bars, nothing that looked like a traditional prison. Instead, the land itself became their cage. A dry, remote area inland, the kind of forgotten village outsiders never visit, surrounded by men with guns, thin trees, and emptiness stretching in every direction. From that moment on, their world shrank to dust, heat, and the faces of men whose language they didn't understand. They slept wherever their captors decided to throw them that night, sometimes under a tree, sometimes inside a makeshift shelter that barely kept out the wind. They were fed just enough to survive, not because anyone cared if they lived, but because living hostages meant ransom money. Dead ones meant nothing.
I don't know what else I can say. Just please, please help us. Please.
This is our 27th day in captivity. So far, we have been provided with adequate food and water and facilities, and so we are unharmed and in reasonable physical health. Mentally, we are under great stress and threatened. Our kidnappers are losing patience. They are concerned that there has been no response at all to their demands for money. We ask the government and the people of Britain and our families to do whatever you can to at least open negotiations with these people about money so that perhaps our lives can be brought back. We have been threatened that there is a terrorist gang at large in the country looking for us. we are also concerned that these people will lose patience and will not feed us, and I have no doubt that they will not hesitate to kill us, perhaps within a week or so of now, if there is no response. So please, somebody get in touch. Otherwise, we just sleepwalk to a tragic ending.
And we are told that we will not be fed and given water. So we are very concerned about the future. Our captors are very impatient now that nobody has been in touch to enter into negotiations. So we ask the government and the people of Britain and our family to do whatever they can to enter into negotiations with these people to buy back our lives. As Paul has said, we are told that there is a terrorist cell or a fanatic cell searching for us, and we are also feeling very much under threat now that these people themselves won't hesitate to take our lives.
The threat was always there, hanging in the air without anyone needing to say it. If nobody paid, if negotiations stalled, they were disposable. Days blurred into weeks, then months. Sunlight, heat, flies, and the constant awareness that any one of the men with rifles standing nearby could decide to end their lives out of anger, boredom, or just to make a point. Their captors eventually named their price, $7 million. It was a number deliberately chosen to sound impossible. Negotiations began, but the Chandlers knew one thing for sure. The UK government had a strict policy: no ransom payments, no deals made with kidnappers. Back home, their family was left with nothing but fear and a ringing phone that never brought real answers. As months dragged on, their bodies began to fail. Rachel lost so much weight that when she caught glimpses of herself, she saw a stranger, gaunt, hollow-eyed, almost unrecognizable. Paul started to experience something harder to explain. At night, when the air finally cooled and the desert went dark, he began hearing things, faint cries, echoes in the distance, the murmurs of other hostages maybe, or maybe just the mind trying to make sense of endless fear. Sometimes the wind carried sounds that didn't belong there, whispers that disappeared the second he tried to focus on them. The reality shrank down to a patch of ground, the buzz of flies around open wounds, the shifting moods of men with guns, and the constant awareness that there was no one to call, no siren that would ever wail for them. There were days where the pirates would friend them casually, joking about killing them, and other days where they were ignored completely, as if they were already dead. Paul later admitted he truly believed there would be a day when one of them, drunk or impatient, would simply decide to end it, not because of any strategy, but because they could. Then after more than a year of this slow, grinding nightmare, something shifted. Unknown negotiators, people operating in the shadows, possibly intermediaries hired privately, began chipping away at the pirates' demands. The price dropped from millions to hundreds of thousands. Little by little, the number crept down until it landed on something cold and transactional, about $440,000, split in 2 payments. No government press conference, no official deal, just stacks of cash and a quiet agreement that it was finally enough. One morning, Paul and Rachel were told to get up and load it onto a truck. No explanation, no reassurance, just a rough command and the familiar barrel of a gun nudging them forward. They were driven into the hills, far from the village they had come to hate and fear. The entire trip, they had no idea where they were being taken to be executed or traded. After 388 days in captivity, over a full year erased from their lives, their fate was still in the hands of men who never even called them by name. Then, just as suddenly as it all had started, it was over. The truck stopped. They were handed off to a Somali official surrounded by armed escorts. But this time, the guns weren't pointed at them. They were thin, sunburnt, and emotionally shattered, but they were alive. The world welcomed them back with microphones, cameras, questions, and headlines calling it a remarkable rescue or a successful release. But behind the smiles and the relief was something much darker. The deep, private scars from a year spent in a place where no law applied, where your existence was reduced to a bargaining chip. On September 20th, 2025, Hanoi, Vietnam experienced a terrifying moment that could have easily turned into a full-scale disaster. A Mercedes driver attempting to reverse lost control and slammed into a fuel pump with enough force to send flames erupting upward. A staff member became trapped beside the burning pump, surrounded by heat and smoke. Acting quickly, another worker grabbed a fire extinguisher and managed to smother the flames before the fire spread to the fuel tanks, something that would have turned the entire station into an inferno. The trapped employee suffered burns to his face and hair, but considering how close he was to a potential explosion, he was incredibly lucky. 2 motorcycle owners took damage as well, though only minor. Reports later stated the Mercedes driver accepted full responsibility, agreeing to cover all damages and medical expenses. It's a miracle everyone survived with injuries this minor. This clip is one of those videos that genuinely leaves you speechless, and I don't say that lightly. It was recorded in Bogoso, Ghana in January of 2022, and the part that really stings is how completely avoidable it was. A truck loaded with explosives meant for a mining operation ends up in an accident with a motorcycle. That alone is dangerous, but it's the kind of incident that people might think they can walk up to, inspect, and maybe even help with. And that is exactly what they do. Curiosity takes over. Locals gather. Some approach because they want to see what happened. Others because they want to help the driver and anyone else involved. They walk closer, crowding around a vehicle that is literally filled with enough explosives to level a neighborhood, never fully appreciating just how unstable that situation really is. Then without any real warning, the nightmare hits. The truck detonates in a massive explosion that rips through the area. A fireball lights up the surroundings, shockwaves blast outward, and dozens of nearby houses are destroyed in an instant. When the dust settles, 17 people have lost their lives and 59 more are injured. It is not just a tragic accident, it's a brutal example how curiosity and a lack of understanding around dangerous materials can turn a roadside crash into a full-scale disaster. It began like so many tragedies do, casually, almost playfully, with 2 friends convinced that bad things only happen to other people. It was supposed to be nothing more than a late-night joyride, a reckless drive through the dark countryside. Music up, adrenaline high, and the illusion that they were untouchable. 20-year-old KLK Ford and 21-year-old Michael Owen were far from their hometown of Rhyl Rhondda, staying in Crowborough, England, miles away from the familiar streets of Wales. That distance gave the night a different kind of energy. No parents, no neighbors, just long empty roads threading through the Sussex countryside. At some point, they climbed into the car and hit record on Michael's phone, a decision that would make sure every second what followed was preserved, right up until the end. As the car tore through the darkness, the footage captured the sound of the engine straining and the boys laughing, shouting over each other, the speedometer creeping higher. It wasn't just fast, it was irresponsible fast. They were pushing 90 miles per hour on winding rural roads, not meant for that kind of speed, especially at night. The glow of the dashboard, the blur of hedgerows whipping past, the shaky camera catching glimpses of the road ahead. It all felt like a game to them, just another story to brag about later. They had taken a dangerous cocktail of illegal and prescription drugs, something that would only be revealed in horrifying detail during the inquest. In that moment, though, it didn't feel dangerous. It felt exciting. The kind of stupid, reckless excitement that makes people feel invincible right up until the world reminds them they aren't. Somewhere along that route, in the middle of nowhere, there is a moment in the footage where everything shifts. The camera keeps rolling. The engine roars. There's a sharp change in tone, voices rising, a hint of panic. then nothing. The video cuts off in the chaos, just like their lives did. By morning, the countryside that had seemed so exciting hours earlier was brutally quiet. Locals discovered the wreckage just off the road. The car twisted, wrapped around a tree. The metal contorted in ways that made it clear there was never going to be a survivor crawling out of that mess. Kay and Michael were both dead. Their bodies found still inside the destroyed vehicle. Nearby, lying on the ground almost untouched, was Michael's phone. Its battery hadn't even died. Inside it was the final recording of their last night alive. The speed, the laughter, the growing loss of control, and then sudden, suffocating silence. What's left now are grieving families, a crushed car, and a video that keeps playing the same fatal decision over and over. No rewind button that can change the outcome. No alternate ending. Just two voices echoing out of a phone, laughing, shouting, alive, and then gone. In the quiet town of Los Palacios, Villafranca, Spain, nothing could have prepared the staff of the small bar for the level of chaos that was about to walk through their door. On August 20th, 2025, a man entered looking for something simple, just mayonnaise for a sandwich. But after being told twice that the bar had none available, something inside him snapped in a way that defies logic. Surveillance cameras captured him storming out, only to return minutes later with a water bottle filled not with water, but gasoline he'd grabbed from a nearby fuel station. Without hesitation, he asks one final time, almost theatrically, before splashing the accelerant across the countertop. And then with a single flick, he ignites the bar in a sudden burst of flame. Customers scramble, staff dash to extinguish the fire, and smoke fills the room. The man's own hand caught fire during his meltdown, leaving him injured and stunned. Damages ranged between 7,000 euros and 10,000 euros, all over a condiment. He was arrested shortly after and now faces serious arson charges for a tantrum that could have turned deadly. Now we head to Moscow, but this is not your typical motorcycle dashcam. The footage you're about to see comes from a helmet-mounted camera, but the rider is not on a bike at all. He is riding a motorized unicycle. That alone sounds risky, but the real horror comes from how fast he decides to push it. He reaches speeds of around 90 kilometers per hour, about 50 miles per hour, and he is doing this on public roads surrounded by cars and barriers, balanced on a single narrow wheel. At that speed, there is no room for mistakes, and yet the unicycle does exactly what you fear it will. It loses control. You watch as the rider starts to wobble, and before there is any time to correct it, he slams into a roadside barrier. There is no protective frame around him, no cage, no bodywork, just his body and unforgiving concrete. The impact is brutal and instant. It is the kind of crash where you understand immediately why machines like this at those speeds are practically begging for a Darwin Award. Watching it, you cannot help but wonder how this is even legal on public roads, and more importantly, how he walked away at all. A few days earlier in Mumbai, India, another video captured a situation that starts off mildly irritating but escalates into genuine danger. The streets are soaked after heavy monsoon rainfall, the kind that weakens old structures and makes everything feel unstable. Locals begin shouting urgently at a man standing beneath a visibly compromised overhang, begging him to move. You can hear the frustration and fear in their voices. People who instantly recognize the risk and want him out of harm's way. But instead of reacting with urgency, he stares back, clueless, arguing instead of stepping aside. His hesitation borders on reckless.
पत्थर मार के हटा उसको पत्थर मार के हटा देखो देख गया ये भी गया
Moments later, the structure finally gives way, collapsing exactly where he had been standing mere seconds earlier. The fact that he survives isn't just luck, it's a perfect example of how thin the margin is between annoyance and disaster. Despite the collective panic around him, no one is hurt, but the scene exposes how denial can turn an avoidable danger into a headline. On September 24, 2025, Bangkok residents woke to a scene that looked ripped straight from an apocalyptic movie. A massive crater had opened in the middle of a busy road, swallowing earth, asphalt, and anything too close to the edge. Local officials later confirmed the ground slid directly into the underground metro construction tunnels below, creating a sinkhole roughly 100 by 100 feet wide and nearly 164 feet deep. Before the collapse, nearby residents reported hearing frightening cracks echoing through the neighborhood around 6 a.m. But by the time anyone realized what was happening, the road had already begun folding in on itself. A hospital only a few feet away rushed to evacuate every patient and suspended all services immediately. In the footage, you can even see people standing dangerously close to the edge, peering down into the darkness, completely unaware that one wrong shift of soil could have sent them tumbling. Miraculously, no casualties were reported, but the damage left behind was catastrophic. The next clip looks like a standard rear-facing camera recording from the back of a car, most likely in Russia or a neighboring country. At first glance, it is the kind of footage that usually shows nothing but taillights and slow-moving traffic. But buried in that ordinary view is a situation that will make every driver tense up. In the distance, another vehicle approaches at speed. You can almost feel your stomach drop as you realize the driver behind might not be fully focused. The gap closes quickly. The stopped car gets larger and larger in the frame, and it becomes painfully obvious how little time there is to react. This is the moment every driver fears, being trapped in a dead vehicle with someone barreling toward you from behind. At the last possible second, the approaching driver slams on the brakes and swerves, narrowly avoiding a direct collision. The space between life and death in that moment is almost nothing. Even after the danger passes, you can tell that everyone involved is in shock, because this is about as close as you can get to being wiped out without actually being hit. Recorded in Guanajuato, Mexico on March 13, 2023, a dashcam captures a moment that starts as ordinary city traffic and instantly becomes a heart-stopping near tragedy. A woman in red steps off the curb and crosses the street without so much as glancing in either direction. It's the kind of split-second decision that can end a life.
Ay, cabrón.
In the footage, a vehicle barrels toward her with no time to fully brake, and for a second it feels inevitable that this will end in a fatal collision, but somehow, through a mixture of reflexes, luck, and momentum shifting at the last possible second, she survives with only minor injuries, an outcome that doesn't even seem physically possible based on the angle of the hit. Authorities rush in almost immediately, pulling her clear, checking her condition, and assisting her while traffic sits frozen in shock. It's the kind of moment that makes you realize how a single step, a single glance, or the lack of one can reshape an entire future. Bonus clip centers on a woman that some people online have labeled an NPC, a non-player character, implying that she is just drifting through life on autopilot. Instead of looking robotic in a negative way, she comes across as someone who refuses to be caught off guard. Calling her an NPC feels unfair once you see the footage. It's more accurate to say she is situationally aware, maybe even paranoid. But in a world where so many people walk around staring at their phones, that might not be a bad thing. The video ends with a reminder from the creator to support the channel, help a fellow human out by subscribing, and try to have a good day and week, even after watching how quickly things can go wrong all over the world. Now we move to the UK, where security camera footage captures a scene that has been shared over and over online, all with the same word attached to it: negligence. A double-decker bus is making its way through Greater Manchester. People are seated on the upper deck, enjoying the elevated view like passengers always do, completely trusting the person behind the wheel. Up ahead is a low-level aqueduct with a clearly posted height limit. That sign is not there for decoration. It is there because any tall vehicle that tries to pass under it without enough clearance is gonna be torn open. The driver either ignores the warning, misreads it, or simply fails to notice it in time. The bus keeps going, does not slow enough, and plows into the structure. The result is horrifying. The roof of the upper deck is ripped back and partially removed, exposing the seats and the people sitting there. This is not a gentle scrape. It is a violent impact that instantly puts every passenger on top level in danger. Several of them are injured when they are suddenly exposed to the outside and thrown around. Watching the roof peel away like a can lid is a stark reminder that one moment of inattention from a professional driver can turn a routine trip into a traumatizing, life-changing event for everyone on board. Vietnam is known for some of the strangest, most unexpected viral clips on the internet, but this one takes things into an entirely different category. It's the middle of the night, about 1 a.m., and residents in the alley at Tangi Tangier are suddenly shaken by a deafening explosion. A boiler inside a nearby glass pressing factory detonates without warning, sending a shockwave that slams into nearby homes like a sledgehammer. Walls collapse inwards. Debris sprays across the alley. Dust clouds swallow the view, and standing right at the edge of the blast zone is a man who should, by all logic, have been crushed or burned. But somehow, impossibly, he emerges unharmed, stumbling out of the haze alive. The surrounding houses, however, are not as fortunate. Multiple homes suffer severe structural damage, and the entire alleyway is transformed from a quiet residential corner into a debris-littered disaster zone. It's a brutal reminder that industrial accidents don't just affect workers. They can rip through an entire neighborhood without warning. In this video, the focus shifts from individual accidents and encounters to the raw power of the weather. The first scene comes from the Russian city of Novosibirsk, where a resident records a storm that looks like it wants to rip the entire sky open. Dark clouds hang low, rain or hail lashes down, and the wind howls through the streets. turning the outside world into something that feels hostile and aggressive. From there, the clip jumps to Tokyo, and this is where things really start to feel surreal. Seeing the streets of Tokyo flooded is strange on its own. This is a city known for its impressive drainage systems and urban planning, a place that is supposed to be more resilient to heavy rain than most. Yet here, the water has taken over. Streets look more like rivers, vehicles move slowly through deep water, and people struggle to navigate their own city. It looks wrong, as if someone took a familiar location and twisted it into something new and unsettling. The message is clear. No matter how advanced a place is, nature can still overwhelm it when it decides to unleash its full force. The next sequence begins in Vietnam, captured by the dashcam of a car on a day where the wind is far stronger than you would ever want it to be if you were out on a scooter. One rider in particular is about to find out the hard way how unforgiving extreme weather can be.
Em vào nhờ trong này. Cho em vào nhờ trong này.
As he moves along the road, a portion of a roof is ripped free by the wind, torn from a nearby building, and sent flying across the air like a giant deadly sheet of metal. It does not gently drift down. It drops with force, slamming down almost directly on top of him. The scooter takes much of the impact, absorbing what could have easily crushed his body instead. He manages to survive and walk away, but the sheer violence of that falling object makes it clear just how close he came to being flattened. Now we are looking at CCTV footage of a recent military jet crash in Bangladesh, a clip that quickly spread because of how clearly it shows the moment everything went wrong. What makes it even more haunting is where the jet comes down. Instead of crashing into an open field or an inhabited land, it plummets into a school. You see the aircraft descending far too quickly, heading straight toward a place that should be a safe space for learning and routine. The impact is violent. The jet slams into the building. Debris erupts outward, and an explosion follows that engulfs the area in smoke and fire. Even without close-up detail, the implication is horrifying. A school is not designed to withstand that kind of hit. Whether you see the aftermath in this video or not, knowing that a military machine designed for combat ended up in the middle of a schoolyard is enough to send a chill down your spine. China produces countless videos of bizarre roadside moments, but what happens here defies expectations. A truck driving past a gas station suffers a mechanical failure so rare it looks staged. A wheel breaks loose mid-motion, detaches completely, and bounces with lethal velocity into the station. It rolls with unnerving precision, threading the narrow gaps between pumps, ricocheting toward a man who has no idea death is rolling straight at him. The wheel misses him by inches, then smashes into a wall and a parked vehicle with enough force to crumple metal. If that wheel had hit him directly, the outcome wouldn't have been survivable. The randomness of the event, the narrow miss, and the sheer destructive power of a rogue wheel make this moment as chilling as any full-scale crash. The call came in from a McDonald's just before things spiraled out of control. Staff reported a customer refusing to leave the restaurant, claiming she was being harassed by management. By the time officers arrived, the tension inside the dining area had already thickened into something aggressive and unpredictable. The woman sat alone, frustrated and pacing between anger and confusion. When the officers approached her, she immediately launched into a rambling explanation, insisting she was just minding her own business. She accused the manager of bothering her, of singling her out, even of hiding her own young ones in the back of the cooking area. She said signs had been printed just moments before the police arrived, as if the entire restaurant had turned into a conspiracy against her.
I could politely tell that manager to come back over here since she got...
You can go outside.
Okay.
You're being difficult. Sunday. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Because I was sitting here minding my business and I'm being harassed.
Harassed by who?
The manager that came over here that also had her kids sitting here.
There's even a sign says 30 minutes.
She just printed that out.
That's it?
She just printed that out and put it up here before y'all pulled up here.
No, you got to sell property. I don't want you there. Period. Like, you can't leave property. I haven't been trespassed. You want to make it official? You can't come back here for a year. Or you just want to leave now, call it a day, and then.
Just saying. Y'all realize you're doing too much, right?
Listen, you realize you're barking up the wrong tree. We don't know, and quite frankly, we don't care. They call us, tell us they want something out of their business. We just do.
I don't care.
All right, so why are we still talking?
Go. What?
If you don't leave the property, I'm going to have to take you in handcuffs and leave you the property.
I'm out of fucking McDonald's. Like, what you mean?
Property. Like, you got to leave the parking lot of McDonald's.
When officers reminded her she had to leave the property, not just the lobby, but the entire parking lot, she exploded again. Each sentence she spoke twisted into another argument. Each step she took was followed by a sudden stop and another wave of hostility. But when she finally walked toward the edge of the parking lot, she made a fatal mistake. She turned back. She wanted to ask one more question, just one, she said, but the officers had already given too many warnings. They had told her repeatedly she had to keep walking and continue off the property. Instead, she spun around, shouting into her phone, calling someone to come pick her up, refusing to listen. The officers moved in, telling her she was now getting arrested. She panicked instantly, screaming for no reason, thrashing as they tried to detain her.
Yes, listen, we're done with this. So either leave the property, I'm going to put handcuffs, you're going to gun clubs. I'm coming to pick you up right now.
What?
I already told you, you're supposed to leave.
Y'all said off the property. Look.
Yeah, and where did I say the property was?
Wait. Just wait. No. Y'all said off the property. Look, I'm on.
Turn around.
I'm not. I was asking y'all the. Babe, come get me. Babe. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Put your hand. Now you're getting additional charges.
Listen.
You listen.
I was off the fucking property.
Now you're off the property. Now stand
I
up.
was at the same fucking spot. How are y'all gonna arrest me? I'm at the same fucking spot.
Because you're told to leave the property,
I'm off
and
the
you don't want
property.
to leave.
Look.
Yeah.
Damn.
Let's go now. Now we're going to jail.
My phone.
We'll grab it.
How are y'all arresting me and saying I'm off the property? I was in the same fucking spot. I'm asking y'all a question. What the fuck is the cop here for me for? Damn.
Because you don't listen, you don't leave. Now you're leaving.
I was off the fucking property.
Now you're going to be off.
How are y'all? I was off the. Bro, look. I was off
These
the.
all come off.
Bro. How are y'all trying
Face me again, you're going to go back on the ground.
I'm on the ground for what? I was off the fucking
Face
property.
me again, you're going to go on the ground.
I was off the property. What the hell? Y'all arrested me saying get off the property, and I'm trying to.
No, you want to play games and you picked the wrong.
How did
That's what happened.
how did I pick the wrong games? And y'all say get off the property. I was off the property. I turned around and asked y'all a question, and y'all come into or try and.
We told you to leave, and you want to be a wise guy and not leave the property.
Bro, what the? Can y'all go get my phone before it gets stolen?
But when she was fully restrained, the truth of the situation became clear. Despite the struggle, despite her refusal to leave, despite her threats, accusations, and resistance, none of it held up. Prosecutors reviewed the evidence, examined the body cam recordings, and found her version of events impossible to support in court. There wasn't enough proof to move forward on any charge. The trespassing case collapsed. The resisting charge fell apart. The officer's warnings, her frantic behavior, the arrest itself, all of it ended in a legal dead end. The state attorney dropped everything. And just like that, the woman who had turned a simple restaurant dispute into a chaotic confrontation walked free, leaving behind a bizarre trail of confusion, hostility, and unanswered questions. The officers released her, the case closed, the file sealed. But the footage remains, an uneasy reminder of how fast an ordinary day can twist itself into something dark, volatile, and strangely unsettling. What unfolds next is one of those moments that feels almost engineered by chaos itself. The footage shows a truck rolling past a gas station in China, moving at a speed that doesn't seem out of the ordinary. But hidden in plain sight is a mechanical failure that is seconds away from turning into projectile-level disaster. One of the wheels, already weakened and wobbling, finally snaps free from the axle and shoots off with incredible force. The detached wheel doesn't simply fall over or drift harmlessly into the street. No, this thing has purpose. It rolls into the gas station like it's guided by invisible hands, bouncing with enough speed to completely upend the situation. It narrowly misses a man standing near the pumps, grazing him by a margin that's so small it almost defies belief. A single step in any direction and he would have been struck with enough power to leave him seriously injured, if not worse. The runaway wheel continues on its violent path, slamming into a wall and ricocheting with so much force that it damages a vehicle parked nearby. The entire event is a reminder how quickly everyday routines can be interrupted by freak mechanical failures. Failures that turn a common passing vehicle into a near-lethal hazard. The guy who narrowly avoided becoming a statistic reacts exactly the way anyone would, completely stunned. You can almost feel the cold wave of adrenaline hitting him as he tries to process that he was just inches from disaster. Had that wheel clipped him even slightly, the damage would have been catastrophic. Thankfully, though the wall and the car took the brunt of the impact, he walked away untouched. A 1 in a million dodge that turned a potential fatal moment into a cautionary tale instead. From Bangladesh, we head to Singapore, a place that rarely shows up in terrifying road footage. When it does, you know something extraordinary has happened. This dashcam footage recording was captured on July 26, 2025, on Tanjong Katong Road in the southern part of the country. It starts with a calm, almost soothing vibe. Cars glide along, streetlights glow, and there is nothing that suggests the ground beneath them is about to betray that sense of safety. Then in a split second, the road opens up. A sinkhole forms under a passing car, and the vehicle drops into it without warning. One moment it is cruising comfortably along the asphalt, and the next it is being swallowed by the earth. The shock of seeing a car vanish like that in real time is hard to put into words. There is no time to react, no chance for the driver to correct anything, because how do you avoid something you cannot see coming? The woman behind the wheel has to be rescued and taken to the hospital. Miraculously, her injuries are minor, but the psychological impact of being literally dropped into the ground by a collapsing road is something that does not fade easily. It's the kind of clip that makes you side-eye every patch of pavement you drive over afterward. Streaming opened a door for a lot of people to turn everyday life into content, but it also gave some people a very public way to cross the line. In the IRL streaming niche, you got two types of creators: the one who use it creatively and build a community, and the ones who push things further and further until they stop being funny and start being dangerous. Jamal Hassan Harz, better known as Arab Andy, fell firmly into that second category. Born in Washington, he started out streaming on Twitch and YouTube, grinding away like everyone else with modest view counts and small donations. His life changed in 2018 when he met popular streamer Ice Poseidon and his associate Sam Pepper during one of their Seattle trips. Jamal forced himself into their stream, made himself noticeable, and it worked. He was invited to tag along, joke on camera, and suddenly his face and name were in front of a much bigger audience.
Yeah, okay, really aggressive, by the way. I'm going there with a straight jacket. If I get socked, I'll win. Okay, no, that's fucking bullshit. Okay, well, I guess we'll find out what happens in Capitol Hill. We've been in town for 5 hours, and our names are already out there, and they're out to get us. All of Seattle was out to get us, and they hate us. Well, I guess we'll...
From there, he got absorbed into the Andy ecosystem orbiting Ice Poseidon. Mexican Andy, Asian Andy, Burger Andy, Traxxed Andy, and now Arab Andy. Overnight, Jamal went from being just another small-time streamer to a recognizable IRL personality.
What did I do? On the ground. I didn't do nothing, bro.
Lay on the ground.
I was TTS, I was donating.
On the ground now. Lay flat on your stomach.
Thank you. That's good.
Put your phone down if you're concerned about it.
He leaned into donation-driven TTS, text-to-speech streams, where viewers paid to have messages or sounds blasted out of a speaker strapped to his chest while he walked through public places. The more outrageous the sound, the more attention he got. It didn't matter if it was gunshots, offensive chants, or straight-up harassment. If it made people jump, panic, or get angry, it stayed. He ran through a public park blasting gunfire sounds while crashing across benches and chairs. He walked up to groups of strangers with his speaker screaming bizarre or hateful phrases. He even approached a group of Muslims while his speaker blasted loud Arabic chants and audio that's often paired online with images of Osama bin Laden. Later, he wandered over to people casually playing volleyball and just started insulting them for content, not caring who he upset as long as the stream stayed entertaining.
Dude, you look like a damn cracker, dude. Like, they hit me 3 times, so I didn't finish. They picked up my legs and they flipped me over. They almost broke my...
When a police officer finally approached him after multiple complaints, Jamal didn't shut things down. He left the stream running, letting the TTS continue firing off provocative lines while the cop tried to talk to him.
Complaints about you. Man, bro, I just walked down the first block. I barely got to see the parade. I'm just enjoying my time.
Okay, well, people are saying that you walk around playing. I don't know if they're saying that you're saying it or if it's your phone that's saying it, but it's saying a lot of, stuff.
Someone like, sorry, that's my chat, dude.
Sometimes he paid a price in the moment, like when one of those volleyball confrontations ended with him getting beaten up on camera. But none of that stopped him. If anything, it encouraged him and his viewers to keep escalating. His entire brand became built on disturbing the peace, and the people egging him on wanted to see just how far he'd go.
He's recording. People really need to stop recording me. Stop recording me.
Shit, my bad.
My class are, so you can record my class? That's okay? But you have to ask my permission?
My bad, sir.
I prefer if it was live.
Yeah, my bad. I'm alive. I just was on live and I just saw your class, so.
So you're not in this class?
I am. I just registered today.
You registered for this class today?
Yeah.
You can't register for a class in the middle of class.
And they didn't tell me that at the office, dude.
Who are you and why are you here?
Dude, I wonder.
On May 31st, 2018. That day, Jamal walked into a classroom at the University of Washington with a speaker and TTS active. Students were seated, a lecture was underway, and he lingered in the doorway with a large backpack, his phone in hand, and an electronic strapped across his chest. According to one student later posting on Reddit, he seemed nervous, awkward, and unsettling even before the audio played. When a faculty member asked if he was in the right place, he smiled and said, "I think so." Then the TTS triggered a fake threat, one designed to sound terrifyingly real in that setting. Panic exploded instantly. People bolted from their seats, dove for the floor, scrambled to the exits, and the entire campus was thrown into chaos.
Is this where you're supposed to be?
I think so.
C4 has been successfully activated. Bomb detonation countdown successfully started.
Even if some students suspected it might be a prank, nobody was willing to take that chance. Outside the room and in the back areas, some people only heard a strange announcement. Those who saw him up close with a bag and the speaker were convinced they were living a nightmare. When the fear settled and it became clear there was no actual device, authorities started hunting for whoever caused the scare. Incredibly, Jamal didn't flee. He stayed on campus, still filming, apparently proud of the panic he created. That ended when police caught up with him.
Reaction to that? Holy shit! Oh, because that was not on the ground.
Yeah, on the ground right now.
Wait, what's going on?
On the ground. Don't make any sudden movement.
Okay, I'm recording, bro. If you're gonna shoot me,
that's fine.
What are you doing, bro? Put the gun down. Put the gun down. What are you doing, bro?
Your backpack. You got me?
What are you doing, bro?
Record all you want to. That's totally fine. Move this way.
Wait, let me check my phone.
Contact in relation to a bomb threat. Move away from
What?
the shit right now.
He tried to argue that he wasn't the one who triggered the TTS message, blaming his viewers for choosing the audio, but the context spoke for itself. He had walked into that classroom knowing full well what kind of jokes his fan base liked to send and what his entire brand had become. Investigators, students, and the public saw it differently, not as a harmless prank, but as a deliberate act meant to simulate a deadly threat in a world where those threats are very real. He was arrested, charged, and eventually jailed. When he was released early, strict conditions were placed on him, including a requirement that he stop creating content while on probation. In the end, the streaming career he'd built, brick by brick, stunt by stunt, collapsed in a matter of weeks, leaving behind a legacy not a comedy, but a fear. What begins as a quiet night in Russia takes a violent turn when one impatient driver makes a series of decisions that nearly get everyone around him killed. In the original footage, the car behind him is recording everything, and the moment you see the driver drift toward the opposite lane, you instantly understand he's about to gamble with dozens of lives. As he pulls out, you can practically feel the tension rise because headlights from another massive truck appear barreling toward him in the opposite lane. He panics, jerks the wheel, and suddenly the world flips sideways. The car clips the edge of the truck, spins violently, and launches into a terrifying rollover. Dirt, debris, and shattered glass explode into the air as the vehicle slides across the pavement like a crushed soda can. Inside the car, the passengers are thrown into chaos, screaming and bracing for the next violent impact. The driver tried to be bold, but reality hit him harder than any truck ever could. Somehow, miraculously, everyone survives. Locals race over, pulling open bent doors and helping the injured out of the wreck. When the car finally stops moving, it's a twisted metal reminder that one reckless decision is all it takes to destroy an entire vehicle and multiple lives. Had that second truck been a few feet closer, this wouldn't just be a crash. It would be a high-speed head-on collision with no possible survivors. He didn't just run out of luck, he ran out of road. The next video is the kind of scene where rage and fear collide on wet asphalt. A biker is riding in the rain, which is already risky but manageable if you're cautious and aware. He is moving along when a taxi driver pulls a move that could have ended everything for him. The taxi cuts him off harshly, forcing him to react instantly to avoid sliding out and slamming into the side of the vehicle or the pavement.
Ты что, еблан, что ли?
Я видел тебя, зачем ты едешь?
Да нахуй! Нахуй, блядь!
You can feel the spike of adrenaline just from watching the footage. The biker manages to keep control, but just barely. After that, anger takes over. In his mind, this driver did not just inconvenience him, he nearly killed him. Later in the footage, which has been cut for brevity, the biker walks up to the taxi driver and straight up smacks him. It is not the reaction most people would recommend, but in that moment, with rain still falling and his heart pounding from the near miss, he is done with words. You are left with a scene that is both understandable and disturbing. On one hand, you get why he is furious. On the other, watching someone cross that line into physical retaliation is its own kind of horror, because you know how quickly that kind of confrontation can escalate into something much worse. Welcome to southern India, where sharing space with wild elephants is not some rare exotic encounter, but a real risk locals have to live with. In this clip, a van and a crowd of people find themselves on the wrong side of that reality. Then the mood changes. The elephants suddenly charge, and one of them slams into the van with frightening force. The impact is enough to rattle the entire vehicle and send the crowd behind it scattering for their lives. You can almost feel the shock ripple through the people there as they scramble to get out of the way, suddenly very aware that if these animals decide to keep going, there is nothing that will stop them. Elephant-related deaths are not the most common cause of fatalities, but when these giants get angry, they are more than capable of ending lives in a matter of seconds. In this particular incident, fortune is on everyone's side. The van takes the beating. The crowd manages to run far enough to avoid getting trampled, and even the elephants eventually calm down. No one, human or animal, ends up seriously hurt, but the raw power on display is enough to leave you with a lingering sense of how small people really are when they stand in front of something that massive. Derek Medina grew up in Florida wanting to be everything at once. While other youngsters focused on a single sport or hobby and slowly got better at it, Derek bounced from one thing to another: pool, golf, basketball, even amateur boxing. In the ring, he actually found some success, racking up a 25-0 record against low-level opponents and convincing himself he was destined for greatness. But outside those ropes, it was a different story. He dabbled in acting, appeared in tiny roles, and self-published books with sprawling bizarre titles like How a Judgmental and Selfish Attitude is Destroying the World We Live In Because the World is Vanishing Beneath Our Eyes, and Humans Who Are Gifted and Can See the Supernatural Spirit Ghost World We Live In.
And today is the release date of Humans Who Are Gifted and Can See the Supernatural Spirit Ghost World We Live In, called Ghost Haunted Adventures, written by Derek Medina. The book is available for ebook for $9.99 and also paperback for $19.99.
He gave his life a grand, dramatic narrative in his own mind, but in reality, none of it stuck. Jobs never lasted more than a few months, his acting career went nowhere, his books gained no real readership. His life was a series of false starts. Things changed when he met 27-year-old Jennifer Alonso at a South Miami restaurant. Jennifer had a young daughter named Isabella, and Derek quickly latched onto the idea of becoming the family's protector and provider. They dated for a brief period, then rushed into marriage. To outsiders looking at photos, they seemed like a couple trying to build a normal life. Family trips, vacations, and even ghost tours, which Derek loved. At home, he installed cameras and tried to capture paranormal activity, feeding his obsession with the supernatural and his need to feel like he was at the center of something important. But beneath those curated moments, tension simmered. Derek and Jennifer argued constantly. They would split up for a day or two, then reunite, repeating a cycle of instability that never truly resolved anything. Derek's behavior became increasingly controlling and aggressive. At one point, after hearing that another man might be showing interest in Jennifer, Derek allegedly showed up at her workplace with a gun, a clear red flag that terrified her friends. They warned her repeatedly that he was dangerous. Jennifer, however, still didn't fully believe he was capable of true horror. On August 8th, 2013, something as ordinary as oversleeping lit the fuse. Jennifer woke up late and blamed Derek for not waking her in time. What began as a typical argument quickly spiraled. She went downstairs into the kitchen to make breakfast, and Derek followed, the fight continuing as they moved through the house. At some point during the confrontation, Jennifer struck Derek in the chest. Instead of walking away or calling for help, he went upstairs, retrieved a handgun, and returned to the kitchen. When Jennifer saw the weapon, she grabbed for a knife in a desperate attempt to defend herself. It didn't matter. Derek overpowered her, disarmed her, and then fired. He shot her 8 times in close quarters, turning a domestic argument into a sudden, brutal execution. What he did after is what truly chilled investigators and the public. Derek calmly put the gun back in his closet, then walked to his stepdaughter's room and told her to stay there, away from the scene. He returned to Jennifer's body, took out his phone, and photographed her lifeless form on the kitchen floor. Then he left the house, not to call an ambulance, but to log into Facebook. He uploaded the photo and wrote a disturbing post, announcing he had killed his wife, claiming she had abused him and that he couldn't take it anymore, telling his friends and followers they'd see him on the news. He framed it as if he were some tragic hero forced into a corner, even as Jennifer's daughter remained alone in the home with her mother's body. Hours later, Derek finally turned himself in at a police station, arriving with his father and surrendering. During an interrogation, Derek tried to spin the story. He insisted it was self-defense, claiming Jennifer had thrown various objects, a towel, mascara, creams, boxes, and that he felt pain and bruising when she supposedly struck him near the temple. But this wasn't a frightened, overpowered partner. This was a trained amateur boxer, significantly larger and stronger than the woman he killed. Investigators pressed him if he was truly afraid for his life. Why didn't he call 911? Why did he have time to put the gun away, post the scene for a photograph, post his social media, and only then decide to contact police? His explanation that the Facebook post was simply a way to notify family to pick up Isabella rang hollow to everyone listening. Prosecutors painted a very different picture, a man obsessed with winning, with proving he was in control. They argued that his boxing instinct drove him to dominate the confrontation and that uploading the photo to Facebook was his way of bragging, like showing off a defeated opponent. In court, Derek behaved the way he lived, erratic and theatrical. He interrupted proceedings, tried to argue with the judge, and at one point declared he didn't want a jury, as if he could rewrite the rules of the justice system the same way he rewrote his own life story. Eventually, he was removed from the courtroom for his outbursts. The trial continued without his drama overshadowing the evidence. The jury didn't accept his self-defense claims. He was found guilty not of first-degree murder as initially charged, but a second-degree murder, still an extremely serious conviction. The sentence, a minimum of 25 years in prison. After the verdict, Derek made a bizarre speech about government corruption, as if he were still the misunderstood protagonist of some grand narrative, but the reality was simple and cold. A woman was dead, a young one had lost her mother, and the man who pulled the trigger was going away for decades.
This world. Not only that, Unfriended the movie by Universal Pictures came out with a movie before my trial, which was unfair, okay, which was biased, and pretty much the point that I'm trying to make is I did not get a fair trial, and I will be taking action. I will be suing, and I want Barack Obama, the President of the United States of America, to focus on corruption. Corruption is a big problem that we have in the United States of America and all over the world. Nothing further. And oh, God knows the truth.
The clip for this video takes us back to China, most likely to a construction site in Chongqing. The CCTV camera is pointed toward an area where two workers in a forklift are going about their day. At a glance, it looks like any ordinary work site. Machines moving, people standing nearby, material stacked in the background. But then you notice the way the forklift is being driven, and the tension starts to creep in. According to Chinese sources, the person behind the controls of that forklift is new and has no real experience with a machine. Despite that, they are the ones steering a heavy piece of equipment around another worker who is on foot and well within the danger zone. As the footage continues, the forklift lurches and moves dangerously close to the other man, cutting it so fine that you can almost imagine the horrible alternate reality where he does not get out of the way in time. One wrong move, one moment of hesitation, and he would have been crushed. The entire scene feels like watching a slow-motion disaster that barely fails to happen. It is a chilling reminder that heavy machinery and inexperience do not mix, and that sometimes the only thing standing between almost and too late is pure dumb luck. The clip is from China, featuring a very unusual go-kart design. This is not a regular kart where one person sits in the driver's seat and controls everything. Instead, this machine requires two people to steer at the same time. Both occupants share control of the direction, which means they need to be perfectly in sync with their movements. In theory, it sounds like a fun challenge, and maybe even a clever way to test how well two people can work together. In practice, it proves to be a lot more chaotic.
到这里了，哎，怎么跑了？喂，救我啊你！救我！救我啊！救我！
As they drive, it becomes obvious that the coordination between them is far from perfect. One turns slightly earlier, the other reacts a bit later, and those small misalignments quickly add up. The cart drifts off its intended path and ends up veering into an area it was never supposed to go. They quite literally discover a completely different section of the map, and not in a good way. While it is entertaining to watch from the safety of a screen, the clip also shows how risky it can be when control of a moving vehicle is split between two people who are not completely connected in their decisions. We have all heard that animals can sense danger before we do. This clip from China is a smaller but very real example of that. A woman is at home going about her day with a couple of cats nearby doing what cats always do, sniffing, pawing, and messing with things that probably should not be touched. In this case, they are fixated on a wall fixture, something attached up above that has caught their interest for reasons only they understand. They keep batting at it, staring at it, and their strange behavior draws the woman's attention. She looks up at the fixture just in time to see it start to give way. A second later, it comes loose and falls. If she had not been looking in that direction, she likely would have walked right into its path and taken the hit directly. Instead, thanks to the cats basically pointing at the danger with their curiosity, she is able to move away before it lands. The fixture crashes down harmlessly in front of her instead of onto her head. In a way, the cats inadvertently saved her from what could have been a nasty injury. They were not trying to be heroes, but their instincts and obsessions with that spot ended up pulling her focus to exactly where it needed to be. The clip in this video comes from a 360-degree camera mounted on a biker, presumably somewhere in Taiwan. Bikes are everywhere there, and drivers are supposed to be used to watching for them. But no matter how careful you are, there is one thing no rider can fully escape: blind spots. The camera gives you a full view of what is happening around him as he rides, and that makes what happens next feel even more intense. As he moves along, a truck starts to shift position. From the rider's point of view, it probably looks like routine lane movement at first, but the 360-degree view makes it obvious that the biker is drifting into place where the truck driver simply cannot see him. In a heartbeat, he is in the danger zone. The truck comes over, the space closes, and he is nearly crushed. The collision throws him off balance and he hits the ground hard. This is the kind of crash that can turn a living person into a statistic in seconds. But his helmet and protective gear do exactly what they were meant to do. The impact still rattles him, and you can tell he is shaken up, but he survives. Without that gear, this would be a completely different kind of video. Police respond to a routine-looking traffic stop, but nothing about this encounter stays routine for long. A deputy spots a driver swerving, drifting across the lane, and most obvious of all, lifting a tiny liquor bottle and taking a shot while still behind the wheel. He pulls her over immediately. As he approaches, he sees her try to light a cigarette, a casual gesture that only makes the situation feel even more reckless. When he confronts her, he tells her exactly what he saw: the bottle, the tilt of her head, the liquid going down. She denies everything instantly, acting confused, overwhelmed, even offended, and asks if he has a warrant. He tells her plainly she's being stopped because of the tinted license plate cover and the open container he just watched her drink from. But she keeps cutting him off, denying the obvious.
Do you have warrant?
I'm stopping you because you have unlawful tag cover.
What tag cover?
The tag cover over your plate that's tinted.
No.
Obstructs the visibility of your plate.
Tinted.
Plus, you can't be in possession of an open container while operating the vehicle.
No open container.
I saw you drink it.
I have.
It was a small shot-sized bottle. You put it in your mouth, tilt your head back. I saw the liquid go into your mouth, like a orangish or a yellowish liquor.
Okay.
And I can smell the alcohol.
Listen, this is what you're gonna do.
I don't think you're going to tell me what to do. I need your driver's license, registration, and insurance.
As he tries to move the stop forward, the woman refuses to hand over her paperwork and insists on calling her husband first. The officer repeatedly orders her to step out of the vehicle and she repeatedly refuses until she suddenly accuses him of battery for touching her arms as he tries to guide her out. That's when things explode. She's pulled from the vehicle screaming as she claims he slapped her.
Have you had to drink today?
Not enough.
Not enough. Come on out after you grab the documents.
Please don't.
What do you mean?
For one,
No. Grab your driver's license, your
You
registration
have
and
my-
insurance, and step on out of the vehicle.
I'm calling my husband now before I get out the car.
No, I need you to grab your
No,
registration
no,
and insurance.
sir. No, sir. No, sir. I'm calling my husband.
Step out.
I'm calling my husband.
Step out.
No, you have my license.
Now you're under arrest for battery.
You're touching me. What the? What the?
On your back.
What the?
Hands behind your
Get
back.
your foot off my back. You had to put your foot on my back?
After you slap me, yeah.
I didn't slap you.
It's on camera. You're under arrest for battery on a law enforcement officer resisting. Step up.
How do I step?
And by the way, this is the liquor bottle I saw you drink.
Good.
Put your butt up.
No, let me go.
No.
You ain't got to do me like this.
Step up. I'm trying to get you off the
I
ground.
can't step up.
Put your legs in front
I
of you.
can't step up. You don't know my...
Put your legs in front of you. Step up.
Listen.
Walk over to the car.
No.
Stop.
What the did I do wrong?
Resisted me.
Get my... No.
Possessed an open container.
No.
While you're
What did I do?
Operated your vehicle
Listen,
with a...
I'm on the way home.
I don't care.
Listen.
Okay.
That was nothing.
On some 115 for battery
Move.
LTO and resisting.
Get me my I need to call my husband.
You ain't calling nobody.
Get my wallet off the floor.
Not right now. So.
Looks, you were one of the ones. I have a lawyer.
Good.
Jason Hicks.
Okay.
Call him.
I don't need to.
Get off of me. Man, this
So
is
you're
bullshit.
You're under arrest for battery on a law enforcement officer resisting.
Because I touch you, you touch me.
Because you slapped me, yes.
I didn't slap
On
you.
camera. Right now, you need to calm down and relax.
Get off my arm. You choking me?
No, I'm pushing you against the car.
You don't have to hold your hand on me. I have costo-contrite.
Considering you're resisting,
Costo-contrite. No, I want you off of me.
I don't care. You're not
You
going
don't
anywhere.
care?
Stay right there.
She keeps demanding her glasses, her wallet, her phone, her husband, anything except to cooperate.
It was one shot.
It might have been. And if that was it,
that's it.
If you would have cooperated and done what I
Yeah,
told
but you ain't
to
got to do that. You ain't got to do this. Listen.
Not right now.
No, I can't see. Now you're violating my civil rights.
No, I'm not.
I can't see.
Stop.
Those are my eyeglasses.
Okay, well, I'm not going to lean over in front of you.
Those
after
are
you've
my
already battered me.
eyeglasses. You're stopping me from seeing. Sir, I want my eyeglasses.
Yes, you do.
I want I don't do this.
Yeah, just gonna have to do use force. Ripped her out of the car. She slapped my wrist after I told her to get out. She started resisting. About swerved into me. Saw her drink this. So, yeah, I'm fine. Like I said, you're under arrest. I'm gonna tell you your constitutional rights.
Can I have my eyeglasses? My wallet is on the...
I need you to listen to what I say.
What did I do?
If I tell you
Yes.
If I tell you not to go somewhere or to do something, I need you to listen, okay?
When he brings up the breath test, she says her lawyer told her never to take one. He warns her that a refusal means losing her license for a year, longer if she has prior refusals. She demands repeatedly to call her lawyer, but the officer reminds her she isn't permitted to make calls until she cooperates.
What do you want? What do you want me to do?
Sobriety test. Are you willing to
What do you want me to do?
I want to check your eyes and do some physical
Okay,
tests with
check
it.
my eyes.
Are you willing to do that?
Come on.
All right.
Come on.
Are you going to batter me again if I take the cuffs off?
I didn't batter you. You touched me,
my right
sir.
arm right here.
You touched me, sir.
Correct, because you were resisting not getting out of the
Really,
car.
sir?
Turn around. I'm going to take
Come
the
on.
cuffs off for you. All right. If you're willing to do them, I'm going to check your eyes real quick, okay? Can you take the glasses from on top of your head? All right, face me. So I'm going to check your eyes. See the finger? Here's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you follow and track the finger finger is going to go back and forth in front of your vision. All I want you to do is
Just follow
the finger, not
Next
move your head.
time. Come on.
Understand?
Come on.
All right. Follow and track the tip of the finger. Don't move your head. All the way up the corner. Don't walk yet. I just want you to assume the stance. Keep the leader front foot planted. Not yet. Not yet.
I can't do it. Don't hurt me.
Okay, you don't want to try it?
No, I have anxiety.
Okay.
I have anxiety. Look at my license.
All right, I'm going to put you back in cuffs. Can you turn around for me?
No, y'all please call my husband.
Put your hands on your back for me. If you cooperate, I'll let you make some phone calls.
Okay, wait a minute. I'll cooperate.
Well, then stop tensing
No,
your arm.
I'll cooperate.
In the end, the situation turns into exactly what the officer tried to prevent, a full arrest with multiple charges. The woman was hit with 2 felony counts, including battery on a law enforcement officer (DUI), second offense, and refusal to submit to a lawful test. Resisting with violence was eventually dropped, but the rest stuck. She was convicted and sentenced to 2 years of state probation for the felony battery charge. In the Russian region of Saratov Oblast, a peaceful summer day turned tragic when a 30-year-old driver lost control of his vehicle and veered onto a sidewalk. The car barreled into a group of teenagers who had been walking together, unaware of the danger approaching. One of the victims, a 15-year-old girl, sustained devastating injuries and did not survive. The other 2 teenagers were rushed to the hospital with serious trauma but remained alive. Witnesses described the crash as sudden and violent, the kind of impact that leaves bystanders frozen in disbelief. Instead of stopping to help, the driver tried to flee the scene, speeding off in a panic. He didn't get far. Authorities caught him shortly afterward and determined he had been under the influence of alcohol at the time of the crash. Investigators immediately opened a criminal case, citing drunk driving resulting in death and failure to remain at the scene. Police examined CCTV footage, studied tire patterns and crash debris, interviewed multiple witnesses, and pieced together a detailed reconstruction of the event. If convicted, officials stated the driver could face up to 12 years in prison. The tragedy served as another painful reminder how one reckless decision behind the wheel can destroy multiple lives in seconds. On Sunday, February 11, 2024, Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, one of the biggest megachurches in the United States, was holding a regular worship service. Thousands of people arrive there each week expecting music, preaching, and a sense of safety inside its massive walls. That afternoon, surveillance cameras captured a woman walking toward the church, holding the hand of her 7-year-old son. She wore a long trench coat, the kind that hides everything underneath, and beneath it was an AR-15 style rifle. A distracted security guard glanced at his phone at the worst possible moment, missing crucial red flags as she passed through the entrance and blended into the flow of people. She moved through the crowd by the doors, walked deeper into the building, and reached the lobby. Then she pulled out the weapon and opened fire. One of her rounds struck a 47-year-old man in the leg. Panic detonated instantly. People screamed and froze. Others dropped to the ground, and some ran without knowing where the danger was coming from. The sound of gunfire in a place designed for worship and comfort shattered any illusion of safety. Off-duty law enforcement officers who were present that day reacted almost immediately. They moved toward the gunfire, yelling for people to get down and calling for backup over their radios. As they closed in, the woman began yelling that she had a bomb, forcing the officers to hesitate and keep some distance. She pointed her weapon in their direction, and a chaotic exchange of fire erupted right inside the church. In that crossfire, a bullet struck her own 7-year-old son in the head, turning a horrific scene into something more unthinkable. The shooter, later identified as 36-year-old Janice Moreno, was hit by police gunfire and brought down. Officers rushed in, weapons still trained on her as they checked for threats. There was no explosive device, no bomb, nothing but a lie used to buy fear and leverage. Emergency crews swarmed the scene. The wounded man with a leg injury, the gravely injured young boy, and Moreno herself were all transported to the hospital. Moreno did not survive. The 47-year-old man was treated and released the next day. Her young son, however, required brain surgery and remained at the center of everyone's prayers and nightmares. As investigators dug into Moreno's background, a disturbing picture emerged. She had a criminal history and was in the middle of a bitter custody battle. Her ex-mother-in-law later said Moreno struggled with serious mental health issues that made her volatile and unpredictable. Authorities also found writings filled with anti-Semitic beliefs and praise for terrorist organizations, suggesting that her anger and instability had curdled into something darker. She even had a prior connection to Lakewood. In 2020, she had posted on Instagram about donating to the church, a sign that this wasn't just some random location. The FBI later said she fired around 30 shots inside and around the building. In the aftermath, Pastor Joel Osteen stood before his congregation in the cameras, trying to find words or something that didn't make sense. He spoke of heartbreak and confusion, praying for the wounded young boy, the deceased woman, and the injured man, and promising that Lakewood Church would continue moving forward despite the trauma. But for the people who were actually there, families hiding behind pews, volunteers trying to shield strangers, and those who heard the echoes of gunshots inside a place of worship, February 11th, 2024 became a date they will never forget. In a building built for faith, joy, and music, the reality of sudden violence had walked straight through the front doors, holding the hand of a young one who never had a say. At a repair shop in Chengdu, China, a mechanic experienced a near-death moment caught entirely on camera. He had been inflating the tire of a large trailer, something he had likely done hundreds of times, when the unthinkable happened. The wheel hub, which he later said he hadn't realized was badly warped, buckled under the growing pressure. As he pumped air into the tire, the internal stress built to a critical point. Without warning, the tire exploded with immense force. The blast sent debris flying outward like shrapnel. A piece of the rim shot past the mechanic's head with lethal speed, missing him by only a few inches. The raw shock on his face said everything. He had no time to react, no second to brace. Instinct alone made him jump backward just in time. Had he been even slightly closer, the explosion could have easily ended his life. Afterward, he stood there trembling, staring at the ruined tire, fully aware that luck had just spared him from a catastrophic injury. The footage later circulated online as a stark reminder of how dangerous tire inflation can be when equipment is damaged or improperly inspected. Now we head into the Appalachian Mountains, where a police officer records one of the strangest encounters of his career. He's at a rest area, a place that's supposed to be boring and uneventful, just a quick stop along a lonely road. But what he finds there is anything but ordinary. The footage comes with a warning about flashing lights, which is already unsettling. But it's the sound in this clip that really gets under your skin.
What the absolute is it? I'm starting to regret that I stopped at this rest stop. And they say Bigfoot isn't real?
The officer hears something in the darkness. It is a deep, echoing, almost inhuman noise that seems to reverberate through the air and bounce around the trees. He shines his light, trying to locate the source, but whatever is making the sound stays hidden. The noise repeats, strange and drawn out, unlike any animal call you would expect in those woods. The officer's reactions say everything. He mutters in disbelief, questions what he is hearing, and even jokes about Bigfoot. But you can tell beneath the humor that he is genuinely unsettled. He does not want to stick his arm into any random hole or get too close to whatever is out there. In the end, he leaves the question unanswered, and so does the video. No explanation, no reveal, just a series of sounds that do not match anything he can confidently identify. You are left with a clip that feels less like a normal patrol and more like the opening to a found footage horror movie. June 3rd, 2018 started like any other morning in the shadow of Volcán de Fuego, the volcano of fire in Guatemala. The sky was clear, the air still. Villages scattered around its slopes carried on with their routines. Locals swept porches, children played in dusty streets, and farmers worked fields that had been in their families for generations. Fuego wasn't just a looming presence on the horizon, it was part of daily life. Rising more than 3,700 meters into the sky, sitting between the departments of Chimaltenango, Escuintla, and Zacatepec, it was one of Central America's most active volcanoes, but that activity had always come in small doses. Frequent puffs of ash, minor explosions every 15 to 20 minutes that had become background noise. People filmed it, pointed tourists toward it, and went to bed each night knowing it might rumble but believing it would stop there. Familiar, predictable.
Miren, sí, me mató bastante. Híjole. Pero aquí no llega.
Shortly before midday, that illusion was completely destroyed. Fuego erupted with a violence that nobody living there had ever seen in their lifetime. In moments, calm blue skies turned pitch black. The roar that followed sounded less like a natural event and more like the world tearing open. A towering column of ash, rock, and superheated gas shot into the atmosphere, then spilled downward in deadly avalanches called pyroclastic flows. These were not slow streams of lava creeping across the ground. They were choking clouds of ash and gas racing downhill at terrifying speed, hundreds of kilometers per hour, with temperatures reaching around 700 degrees Celsius. Anything in their path, anything living, was instantly overwhelmed. On the slopes and in the valleys below, people didn't fully understand what they were seeing until it was too late. One man, standing in what he thought was a safe spot, pointed his phone at the volcano, filming as the ash cloud began to roll toward the villages. In the video, someone laughs nervously. Another voice says something along the lines of "it won't reach us." That disbelief, that fatal assumption, lasted only seconds. The pyroclastic flow didn't slow down. It didn't stop at some invisible line. It surged forward, swallowing homes, roads, and people in a dense, suffocating wave. Everyone in that recording, the ones joking and watching from a distance, were believed to have died shortly afterward, completely overtaken by something they'd mistaken for a spectacle. Chaos erupted in nearby towns. Some people tried to escape in cars, only to find roads already covered in ash and debris, engines failing as heat and dust choked them out. Others fled on motorcycles or on foot, running blind through a world that had gone dark at noon. In a matter of minutes, villages that had existed for decades were buried. Authorities initially reported 33 deaths, but that number quickly became meaningless. As rescuers clawed through heaps of ash and twisted debris, the true scale of the disaster began to emerge. Nearly 200 confirmed dead, thousands more estimated to have perished, and hundreds listed as missing. Crops covering more than 21,000 acres were destroyed. Bridges warped, roads vanished, and even the main international airport was shut down under a blanket of ash that turned the landscape into something almost lunar. In the aftermath, grief turned into anger and questions. Guatemala's National Institute of Seismology, Volcanology, Meteorology, and Hydrology had issued multiple alerts starting early that morning as Fuego's activity increased. 6 separate warnings in one day. But warnings only matter if they're heard, understood, and acted on. Many of the communities closest to the volcano didn't receive them at all. Some had no reliable access to mobile networks, internet, or even radio. Others heard the warnings but chose not to evacuate, having lived through so many small eruptions before that it was hard to believe this time would be any different.
Son 50 los que yo tengo desaparecidos. Aquí está toda la colonia, todas las familias enteras, todas están bajo tierra.
¿Usted estaba aquí cuando pasó?
Sí, yo estaba en el callejón, yo les alerté a varias personas y a ellos, pero ellos no quisieron irse. Mi hija lo que hizo con el niño, meterse en la casa de mi mamá y mire, aquí no hay nada. Toda mi familia está aquí sepultada.
¿Usted cree que el gobierno, el Conred, hizo lo suficiente para prevenir a la gente? Porque
no. El Conred no nos dio alerta, él no nos avisó nada, él no dijo nada. ¿Qué es lo que está haciendo el gobierno? Limpiando la...
When evacuation orders finally came, the deadly flows were already barreling down the slopes. Roads intended as escape routes were gone. People found themselves trapped in houses and streets that moments earlier they'd considered safe. Later, as survivors stood in front of what used to be their homes, now just layers of gray ash and scattered fragments of furniture, the same questions were whispered again and again. Why weren't there sirens? Why wasn't the evacuation earlier? Why weren't helicopters already in the air before everything collapsed? Officials pointed to limited resources, chaotic conditions, and the sheer speed of the eruption. Critics argued the system had failed the most vulnerable. The harsh truth is that the disaster was a collision of unstoppable natural force and fragile human systems that weren't equipped to handle it. Some of those lost might have lived if they'd received clear, urgent warnings in time. Some might have survived if they'd believed those warnings instead of trusting the volcano's familiar rhythm. But Volcan de Fuego didn't care about past patterns or human assumptions. It didn't wait for people to finish packing or for officials to finalize plans. It erupted on its own schedule, obliterating everything in its path and then just as suddenly quieting again. When the ash settled, what remained were entire communities erased from the map. The next video starts with a quick apology, and you're about to see why. The camera suddenly shifts from landscape to portrait, which always has that jarring effect. But what really matters is how fast the situation itself goes from calm to chaos. In the frame, there is a man who is described as being somewhat prominent, though the details of his status are vague. What we do know is that he is a professional doctor, someone you would expect to be measured and careful. He is standing at a temple, participating in what is described as a service-related event. He leans just a little too far or missteps at the worst possible moment, and suddenly he loses balance. Right in front of everyone, he tumbles down into the pit. For a moment, nobody reacts. There is this strange, awkward pause where it feels like the world freezes, and everyone is collectively processing how this supposedly respectable figure just vanished down the hole. Then reality catches up, and the people around him rush in to help, pulling him back up to safety. He survives with more embarrassment than injury. But the clip has that unsettling "this is not how it was supposed to go" energy that makes you feel like you are watching karma play out in real time. The Iguazu Falls are the kind of place people dream about visiting once in their lifetime. Spread across the border of Brazil and Argentina, this massive system of waterfalls, 275 separate cascades tearing through dense rainforest, is one of the most powerful sights on Earth. Standing there drenched in mist, with the thunder of water pounding in your chest, it's easy to feel small in a strangely comforting way. People come with cameras, with families, with wide eyes and nervous smiles, wanting that perfect photo, standing right on the edge of immense power, but still safe. Or at least that's what they want to believe. What many don't realize is that when nature decides to change the rules, those safe walkways and sturdy railings can instantly turn into traps. In 2022, the region experienced one of the worst flood seasons in its history. Rainfall in the surrounding areas pushed the river to extremes, and the flow rate of the falls spiked to up to 16 times its normal volume. Paths that were usually comfortably damp became slick and treacherous. Platforms that normally offered incredible views were suddenly swallowed by spray and booming sound, the force of the water turning from beautiful to genuinely menacing, and yet the park stayed open. Tourists still shuffled onto bridges, leaned over railings, raised their phones, and smiled for the camera. The water roared inches away, but as long as the barriers held, it all felt like a thrilling backdrop rather than a real threat. Among those visiting was 58-year-old Canadian tourist San Sarek from Montreal. Like so many others, he wanted that one photo that would capture the scale of what he was seeing. The video from the Devil's Throat area is overwhelming even in normal days. During heavy flow, it looks almost unreal. Witnesses say San climbed over the safety railing at the Devil's Throat walkway to position himself just right, holding his camera up, framing the falls behind him. Maybe he leaned just a little too far back. Maybe the platform was more slippery than he realized. Maybe a sudden gust of wind or a shift in his footing threw off his balance. Whatever it was, it happened in a heartbeat. 1 second he was standing there focusing his shot, the next he was falling. He plunged into a torrent of water that didn't care who he was or why he was there. People nearby saw him resurface only once, dragged toward the churning drop. arms flailing, mouth open in a desperate attempt to breathe. There was no real chance to throw a rope, no easy way to reach him. The current at Iguazu isn't something a person can fight. Within seconds, he disappeared beneath the surface. Despite intense search efforts, he wasn't found immediately. Days later, his body was recovered downstream on the Brazilian side, a tragic solitary figure pulled from the river that had swallowed him in front of horrified strangers. But that wasn't the only horror Iguazu had in store. Not far away on the same system of waterways, tourists were still boarding boats that take visitors as close as possible to the falls, promising an up-close, once-in-a-lifetime view. Even with water levels high and currents unpredictable, the trips continued. Dozens of people crowded onto the boats, laughing, recording videos, turning their backs to the cliffs to pose for photos as towering rock walls surrounded them. Then, somewhere above them, the rock shifted. Without warning, a massive slab of cliff face tore free and began to fall. The entire collapse was caught on camera. In the footage, the boats looked tiny, floating toys compared to the sheer sides of the rock coming down. There is no real time to react, no dramatic countdown. The rock slams into the water with catastrophic force, directly onto at least one of the vessels and shoving another into chaos. Screams vanish under the sound of impact and crashing stone. Some people are crushed instantly. Others are flung into the water, trapped beneath debris or dragged downward by the violent turbulence. 6 people were confirmed dead. More than 30 others were injured. Emergency teams raced in, pulling survivors from the water, hauling the wounded onto nearby boats and barges. In the immediate aftermath, as many as 20 people were reported missing. There was no siren, no warning system predicting the exact moment the cliff would give way. It happened in what had seemed like a calm, scenic corner of the lake, a place people went for fun, not danger. That's the brutal truth about places like Iguazu. They can be breathtaking and deadly at the same time. The same energy that makes them beautiful is the same energy that can kill without hesitation. Within a short period, one man vanished over the edge of the falls trying to capture the perfect photo, and a group of unsuspecting tourists were crushed or thrown into the water by a collapsing cliff. 2 separate tragedies linked by the same setting and the same illusion, that as long as there are railings, boats, and ticket booths, nature is under control. But at Iguazu, the water never really belongs to anyone. One moment, it's a backdrop. The next, it's a grave. From temples to pits, we move to the marshlands of northern Iraq. On screen, it looks like the perfect day. A small motorized canoe glides across the calm water. A man is filming, laughing and talking with friends as they zip through the reeds. The sun is shining, the water is glassy, and the mood could not be more relaxed. That calm is exactly what makes the next moment so jarring. While they should be focused on where they are going, someone is clearly distracted, either by the camera, their phone, or just the fun of the moment. Despite all the open space around them, they somehow manage to crash into another canoe. The impact shatters the piece in an instant. Boats collide, people are thrown off balance, and you can almost feel a shock and panic cut through the laughter. The canoes take the hit and are visibly damaged, and the dreamlike mood evaporates as quickly as it arrived. Local Iraqi sources report that everyone involved walked away physically fine, but the clip still feels like a slow-motion reminder that distraction does not just ruin car rides, it can destroy peaceful afternoons on the water too. On the morning of February 23, 2018, 12-year-old Linda Rogers woke up before everyone else in her Dallas home. It was a day of a cheerleading competition she'd been obsessing over for weeks. Cheer was her passion. She practiced relentlessly, rehearsed routines in her bedroom, and talked nonstop about the upcoming event. This wasn't just another performance to her. It felt like the start of something big. That morning, before the sun was fully up, she decided to get ready early. She picked up her phone and began recording herself, capturing her excitement in the small, quiet moments before the big day. That video would become the last footage of her alive.
Good morning, guys. It is 6:02 a.m. Friday, February 22nd. So I'm gonna start with hair. Turn on my lamp because I don't want to turn on all of the lights. So yeah.
So I went ahead and connected my straightener, and I still have to connect the curling iron. And I already got halfway started doing the braid, and all what's left to do is
2 days earlier, just a couple of miles away, another resident in the neighborhood had noticed something was wrong. When he stepped outside, he saw strange, wet-looking patches and bubbling areas in the soil and around openings on his and his neighbor's properties. As he got closer, a strong smell hit him, gas. To test his fear, he did something risky. He held the lighter up to the strange substance, and it ignited. That confirmed it. Natural gas was leaking into the ground and the air. Alarmed, he called Atmos Energy, the company responsible for supplying gas to the area. The response he got was shockingly casual. They told him they'd be out in about 5 days to make repairs. 5 days with gas actively bubbling out near homes, worried that something catastrophic had happened long before that. He recorded a video of the problem and posted it on Facebook to get attention. That finally worked. Within a couple of hours, Atmos crews were in the neighborhood, checking lines, marking spots, and beginning repairs. But that man's yard wasn't the only place where gas was escaping. Complaints were coming in from multiple locations in the same area. Gas smells, unusual wet spots, strange behavior from appliances. It didn't take a pipeline expert to realize that something bigger might be going on. Multiple leaks clustered in one neighborhood is not a normal occurrence. In a deposition later, Atmos Operations Supervisor Michael Rose was asked directly if he found it unusual to jump from leak to leak in the same area in a single evening. His answer, no. They'd had that happen before. The Director of Operations, Kyle Slaughter, echoed that sentiment, insisting the situation was under control and that there was nothing abnormal about it. They admitted they didn't shut off the main gas distribution system for a broader investigation, but pipeline safety expert Don Deaver, hired by the victims' families, called that attitude terrifying. From his point of view, multiple leaks across a tight radius meant a major failure, not an everyday issue. And when gas is involved, wait and see can be fatal. On February 22nd, the warning signs turned into reality. 2 separate gas-related explosions hit homes on Durango Drive in northwest Dallas, on the same street just a few blocks apart. In one house, a person standing at the stove was suddenly caught in a burst of fire. Emergency calls flooded in, and Atmos crews and first responders moved frantically to the affected locations. Even then, the gas mains were not fully shut down, and families living just a few houses away were not told to evacuate or warned about the potential danger beneath their feet. Atmos kept patching leaks and trying to contain the situation locally, behaving as if each incident was isolated instead of symptoms of a network-wide problem. The next morning, Linda was still getting ready, recording in her room, doing what any excited young competitor would do. Outside, the sky was still dim. Inside, her family was starting to stir. Then, without warning, a massive explosion ripped through the Rogers home. The force was so powerful that it blew apart walls, tore through rooms, and hurled debris into the street. Neighbors woke to the sound of the blast and the sight of flames and rubble. 911 calls poured in as people ran outside to see what had happened. For many of them, the lingering gas smell suddenly made horrible sense.
How's that exploded in the 3500 block of Espanola? See, something's wrong with the gas lines here. That's the 3rd house.
By the time first responders and Atmos officials arrived, the damage was irreversible. Linda had been killed in the explosion. Her bright future, her competition, all of it gone in an instant. The other 4 members of her family survived but suffered varying degrees of injuries, both physical and emotional. Only after this 3rd explosion did Atmos finally shut off the gas supply to the area and order a full evacuation of the neighborhood. They relocated families to temporary lodgings and promised a comprehensive safety plan before service would be restored. Steps that could have, and many argue should have, been taken days earlier. Instead, Warnings were downplayed, leaks were treated as routine, and a disaster that was waiting to happen finally did, taking the life of a 12-year-old who had simply gotten up early to chase her dream. On November 23, 2025, just after 12:26 p.m., Las Vegas Metro Police responded to a frantic call about a carjacking unfolding inside an apartment complex on Indian River Drive. The victim reported that the suspect, 38-year-old Wade David Griffith, was armed with a knife and had threatened to kill him if he didn't hand over the vehicle. With the suspect still on foot and unpredictable, officers rushed in, preparing for a deadly confrontation.
Feet away right now from us, walking towards the entrance. He's still flashing the knife, man. He's got it in his left hand. He's wearing a backpack.
Flashing the air?
Bro. Huh?
Flashing the air?
He's flashing it, bro. He's flashing knife. He's gonna hurt somebody, man.
So walking toward the entrance of the complex?
He's walking towards the entrance of the complex, man. There's cars all over the place.
When they reached the entrance of the complex, they spotted Griffith almost immediately. He refused to back down, ignored commands, and the situation escalated into a violent struggle right there near the roadway. Two officers fought to get him under control as Griffith made a sharp, swiping motion with his hand, something that looked exactly like an armed strike. Believing he had pulled a knife, one officer fired his weapon to stop the assault.
Ground right now. Get down. Get on the ground.
Yes, you did.
Get on the ground now.
Stop. Hey, you got a knife!
Drop it now! Drop the knife!
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Drop the knife! Get on the ground now!
Griffith fell, and officers quickly moved in to secure him. Medical personnel rushed him to the hospital, where he survived and remained in stable condition. But the investigation uncovered an unsettling twist. While officers found a large fixed blade knife and an empty second sheath in Griffith's backpack, the object he used during the struggle wasn't a knife at all. It was a vape pen clenched tightly in his fist, mimicking the shape and movement of a blade. In the chaos of a close-quarters fight, that misinterpretation nearly cost lives. Griffith was arrested and now faces multiple felony charges: 2 counts of robbery with a deadly weapon, 2 counts of battery on officers with a deadly weapon, and 2 counts of resisting a public officer with a deadly weapon. Even if the object in his hand wasn't the knife he carried, the threats he made and the weapon he possessed turned the fight into a near-fatal confrontation, perfectly showing how quickly violence can erupt when danger, panic, and split-second decisions collide. The next scene comes from Hosur City in southern India, recorded by a CCTV camera mounted on the outside of a bus. It is a strange angle, but in this case, it captures everything you need to see. Traffic is moving along the road, vehicles passing by in a steady flow. For a brief moment, everything looks ordinary, just another day on a busy street. Then a truck appears, and in a matter of seconds, the entire scene explodes into chaos. The truck collides with a motorcycle, sending it and its rider into danger. It does not stop there. It keeps rolling, slamming into a smaller car and smashing through a large portion of the median strip. Concrete and debris spray across the roadway. People watching from the bus in nearby areas are convinced they are about to be next. Even without audio, you can imagine the gasps and shouts that it must have erupted as the truck tore through everything in its path. Miraculously, the devastation stops just short of becoming fatal. The truck finally comes to a halt before plowing into any more vehicles or pedestrians. Despite the violence of the crash, reports say there were no casualties. It is one of those rare times where the level of destruction does not match the body count, and you're left staring at the screen, half expecting a worse outcome than what actually happened. In December 2010, disturbing videos began circulating online showing a man cruelly harming kittens. The footage was sickening and vague, filmed in what looked like an ordinary room, yet it was clear that whoever made the videos was enjoying the attention. Outraged internet users gathered on Facebook and Reddit to try to uncover the identity of the person behind the camera. One of the biggest groups called itself Find the Kitten Vacuumer for Great Justice. Behind mostly fake usernames and profile pictures, people obsessively analyzed every frame, every reflection, every object in the background, hoping for a clue. Among the group were two people who would eventually stand out: a data analyst from Las Vegas named Deanna Thompson, using the online name Bodhi Movin, and a man calling himself John Green. Where most people saw a messy room and a monster, Deanna and John saw potential evidence: brands, objects, details that might narrow down a location. They noticed travel posters on the wall suggesting trips to places like Japan and Taiwan, but nothing conclusive. Then their attention shifted to something most viewers ignored: the vacuum cleaner. It turned out to be a Kenmore canister model that was only sold in North America, instantly ruling out a lot of theories about where the videos were shot. Around this time, a second twisted video surfaced, posted under a Facebook profile named James C. Krams. The profile picture looked eerily similar to the man seen in snapshots. When someone from the group messaged him and asked if he was the kitten killer, the reply was chillingly casual: "Yes, I kill kittens, LOL, and there's nothing you can do about it." That was all the group needed. They dug in, connected dots, and soon convinced themselves they had their man. The group exploded in celebration. They believed the case was closed. But Deanna and John weren't convinced. Something felt off. The details didn't fully line up, and the tone of the profile seemed wrong. Their concerns were brushed aside by others eager for a villain to attack. The name and photo of the supposed culprit were blasted across the internet. Strangers harassed him, threatened him, and piled on. The problem was, he wasn't the person in the kitten videos. He was a depressed man who had been sharing the content and playing into the persona online. But he wasn't the original creator. The wave of humiliation and harassment crushed him, and he later took his own life. For the investigators who cared about accuracy, it was a brutal wake-up call. They had wanted justice so badly they'd helped destroy an innocent man, while the real abuser was still out there, watching. Some people left the group in guilt and frustration. Others, like Deanna and John, doubled down in finding the true suspect. As they kept digging, new clues emerged. Photos of the real killer showed him standing outside McGill University in Montreal, Canada. When journalists later obtained the name that matched their research, it lined up with what Deanna and John had already suspected. But authorities initially shrugged off the case. It was 2011 and many police agencies didn't see online animal cruelty as a priority, despite repeated warnings that someone capable of such calculated cruelty might escalate to harming people. Officials didn't fully engage. That changed when a new video appeared in May 2012, titled "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick." The killer had moved on from animals. The footage showed the torture and murder of a young man named Jun Lin, an international student from China. The killer didn't stop at recording the act. He dismembered the body and mailed different parts to schools and political offices in Canada. A building janitor discovered additional remains stuffed in a suitcase near a trash area. When investigators reviewed surveillance footage from the building, they saw two figures entering together, Jun Lin and the man later identified as the vacuum kitten killer. Later, cameras captured that same man returning alone and dumping items, including the suitcase. The suspect, now publicly named as Luca Magnotta, fled the country and flew to Paris the day after the murder. What followed was an international manhunt. Magnotta bounced between cities, but his online habits tripped him up. He was finally arrested in Berlin on June 4th, 2012, after being spotted in an internet cafe where he was reportedly looking up news articles about himself. He was extradited back to Canada, stood trial, and pleaded not guilty, blaming mental illness and dissociation. The jury didn't accept his version of events. He was convicted of first-degree murder and 4 additional charges, receiving a life sentence with no chance of parole for 25 years. The entire chilling saga, from internet sleuths chasing clues, to the tragic misidentification of an innocent man, to the eventual capture of a calculating killer, was later turned into the Netflix documentary Don't F With Cats, Catching an Internet Killer. What began as a hunt for someone hunting animals became proof of the warning those online investigators had been shouting all along. Sometimes the person who starts with small acts of cruelty is already planning something much worse. Next, we go to La Plata, Argentina. The very first frame already tells you that something serious is happening. A supply store warehouse is burning. Flames are visible, smoke is billowing upward, and the glow of the fire makes everything around it feel tense and unstable. Firefighters and authorities are on scene trying to keep the situation under control, but you can see the structure visibly suffering under the heat. As the minutes pass, the fire continues to eat away the building's integrity. Beams weaken, supports give in, and the entire warehouse starts to look like it is being held up by nothing more than stubbornness and gravity. Then, little by little, it begins to collapse. The roof buckles and falls, walls cave inward, and parts of the building building come crashing down. It does not happen instantly, and that delay is the only reason this is not a mass casualty event. The slower collapse gives the responders just enough time to evacuate people from the surrounding area and push onlookers back to a safer distance. There is still no clear explanation for how the fire started, but what we do know is important. No injuries or fatalities were reported. In a clip where the visuals scream disaster, the fact that everyone walked away becomes the most unbelievable part of the entire story. On November 13th, 2025, a quiet afternoon in Clearwater County turned into a violent and surreal confrontation that looked like something ripped straight out of a nightmare. Just after noon, a deputy spotted 75-year-old Dennis Hoye at a small-town gas station in Central Street West in Bagley. Hoye wasn't just passing through. He was wanted on multiple active felony warrants, and the moment the deputy approached, the situation detonated into chaos. Rather than surrender, Hoye dug his boots into the ground, refused to comply, and tore himself away from custody. In an instant, he jumped into his pickup truck, slammed the door, and floored the gas. What should have been a simple arrest turned into desperate chase, winding across back roads, and eventually spilling out onto US Highway 2, where speeds climbed and deputies realized they weren't just dealing with a non-compliant man, they were dealing with someone who had no intention of stopping.
Well, I'm just asking you, do you have any weapons on you? No. No? Okay, let's step over to the front of my car here, okay? You want to just keep your hands out of your pockets for me? Yeah. Just step over here for me, okay? Can you put your hands in my bumper here? Oh, I ain't gonna do it. Oh, come on now, Dennis. Dennis? No. Okay. Hey. No. You are Fighting one, fighting one. Dennis, show me your fucking hands! One at gunpoint. Give me some units now. Show me your hands, Dennis. 12 clear. Give me some units. Fighting one. Dennis, show me your hands. Dennis, stop. Show me your hands. Do not get in that car. Clearwater, he's back in his car. Do not drive away! Clearwater, he's taking off. I don't know if he's armed. He went for the vehicle when we were fighting with him at the gas station. He's found 202, I'll call it.
10-4.
Hoye eventually veered north onto McDougal Avenue Northwest, where a Bagley officer made the call that would halt the pursuit, a perfectly executed pin maneuver.
Hit.
But Hoye wasn't done. As Deputy Hallman shattered the passenger side window to break his resistance, Hoye reached for something that made even seasoned officers freeze, a flare gun. In a split second, he raised it toward the deputy's position on the driver's side and fired, sending a burning projectile ripping toward them. One deputy felt the scorching heat graze the side of his head, narrowly avoiding a serious or even fatal injury.
Your hand! Watch crossfire.
Get your hands up! Hands up!
We gotta...
Your hands up!
I got a window popper. You want me to pop it?
Pop it.
Gun! Stop!
Get away!
Shots fired.
Back up!
Gun! Stop!
Get away!
Shots fired.
Back up!
Start me medical. Shots fired.
Back up.
We need medical. Fuck me.
Maggie, shots fired.
Dude, you got a fucking gun, huh?
We are also pack 1.
I'm fine. You had the... No.
You bleeding on my head or anything?
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, I need to back up. Okay, I got you.
Seeing a weapon discharged in close quarters, Hallman reacted instantly. He fired through the broken window, striking Hoya inside the cab. Deputies pulled him from the vehicle and attempted medical aid on the gravel driveway, but it was already too late. Hoya was pronounced dead at the scene, the chase ending exactly where it started, with flashing lights surrounding a man who refused to surrender until the very end. This clip starts with a line that immediately puts you on edge. It's a grandma, and she's about to experience a home invasion. That alone is enough to make most people tense up, because an elderly person up against an intruder is never a fair fight. The footage shows her home in the middle of the night, around 3 in the morning, a time where most people are asleep and at their most vulnerable. But the invader isn't human, it's an elephant. In the darkness, the massive animal approaches her property and in a surge of anger or agitation, smashes into her metal gate. The sound of the impact must have been terrifying. The gate crumples and part of the surrounding brick wall comes down with it. For anyone half asleep inside that house, it would feel like the entire world was suddenly trying to break in. Villagers rush in with flashlights, shining and making noise in an attempt to scare the elephant away, and eventually it backs off. For a moment, it feels like the danger is past, but instead of disappearing, it comes back later with 5 more elephants, turning this into a full-blown siege. At that point, the villagers have no choice but to seek emergency shelter somewhere else, leaving their homes and hoping the animals do not decide to push their way further in. It's a surreal mixture of wildlife, fear, and displacement that turns one grandma's quiet night into something straight out of a nightmare. This next incident from Kazan, Russia, looks like slapstick at first, but it's nothing short of terrifying. A man enters an elevator carrying a vacuum cleaner. The power cord is still plugged into an outlet just outside the doors. As the doors close and the elevator begins to descend, the still connected cord yanks tight. The man barely realizes what's happening before the vacuum is ripped upward with such force that it slams against the ceiling, nearly pulling him along with it. For a few seconds, chaos reigns. The man flails as the vacuum dangles like a pendulum suspended by the taut cable. Fortunately, the cord snaps before he's dragged further. Maintenance teams later determined the elevator's movement generated enough tension to lift the appliance entirely off the ground, turning it into a swinging hazard. Though the clip went viral for its absurdity, experts pointed out the real danger. A few seconds longer and the man could have been strangled or crushed. He escaped shaken but unharmed, a lucky outcome for an accident born of pure carelessness. In an apartment building on Eva Street, Russia, a calm evening nearly turned into tragedy when a woman returned home from walking her dog. As she entered the elevator, her pet suddenly bolted back toward the stairwell, perhaps startled by a noise or movement she didn't notice. In a split second, the elevator doors began to close, clamping the dog's leash inside. The woman didn't realize it until the cabin started to ascend, dragging the terrified animal upward. The leash pulled taut, leaving the small creature hanging in midair, struggling desperately against the impossible force. For a full harrowing minute, the dog kicked and clawed against the steel door, trying to climb. The woman, horrified, screamed and fought to release it, but the door wouldn't budge. Just before the worst could happen, someone nearby managed to remove the leash, saving the animal from strangulation. The footage spread rapidly online, a chilling reminder of how quickly an everyday moment can shift from normal to nightmare. The dog survived unharmed, though the owner was left trembling, shaken by how close she came to losing her beloved companion. A young woman named Isabella Pa unexpectedly went viral after sharing footage of a terrifying kitchen explosion inside her family's home. She and her 2 brothers were preparing dinner when their pressure cooker, unknowingly clogged with steam and food residue, exploded with tremendous force. The blast covered the walls and ceiling with beams and sent shards of metal flying across the room. In the video, Isabella can be seen screaming in shock as smoke fills the kitchen.
Sai daí, merda!
Her siblings, equally stunned, rushed to assess the damage. Luckily, none of them were seriously injured. Though Isabella suffered burns on her legs and minor bruises from the explosion, photos posted afterwards show the entire kitchen drenched in food and debris. Experts later explained that the clogged valve caused the internal pressure to build beyond safe limits, making it one of the most dangerous malfunctions a pressure cooker can have. This viral clip stands as a warning to always check your kitchen equipment carefully, because even an everyday meal can turn into chaos when safety is ignored. From Yunnan, China, this CCTV footage recorded on July 22, 2025 depicts a narrow rural roadway surrounded by steep, eroded hillsides. A few cars and trucks crawl cautiously along the wet pavement. Cones and warning signs are visible in the distance, evidence that a small landslide had already occurred earlier that day. But as one heavy truck edges forward, the earth above begins to tremble again. Within moments, the slope gives way, sending a wave of mud, stone, and debris cascading onto the road. The driver reacts instantly, flooring the accelerator to clear the danger zone as massive boulders crash down behind him. Dust clouds obscure the frame, and the sound of grinding rock echoes through the valley. Amazingly, he makes it through unscathed. Officials later praised the quick-thinking road worker who had placed the cones hours earlier, saying that early warning almost certainly saved lives. The hillside collapsed completely minutes later, burying the stretch of road under several tons of debris. It's a brutal reminder that nature's second strike often hits harder than the first. At the Gladiola Estates complex, a near tragedy unfolded when a young boy fell through thin ice on a partially frozen pond. Police officer Troy Ellison responded within minutes, sprinting across the property until he spotted the child clinging desperately to the edge of the ice, half submerged in freezing water. Without hesitation, Ellison dropped to his hands and knees, crawling across the fragile surface to distribute his weight. As the ice cracked beneath him, he reached forward, gripping the young one's coat. "I got you, bud," he repeated over and over, inching backward until they both reached solid ground.
All right, how deep is it? Okay, I got you. I got you. I got you, bud. I got you. Okay. I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you, bud. Come on.
Paramedics arrived moments later, wrapping the youngster in blankets and rushing him to a local hospital. Thankfully, he suffered only mild hypothermia and was released the same day. The incident serves as a powerful reminder: frozen ponds are never safe playgrounds. Even when the surface looks solid, it can give way in seconds. Thanks to one officer's courage, this story ended not in tragedy, but in gratitude. Filmed on October 12, 2025 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, this tense footage shows the split-second instincts of a driver saving his own life. 3 armed men ambushed an armored Porsche, blocking it in and raising their weapons to fire. But the driver reacted faster than anyone expected, slamming the door shut and flooring the accelerator before they could act. Eyewitnesses said the attackers fired several shots but failed to penetrate the car's reinforced glass. In the chaos, 2 pedestrians nearby dove for cover and escaped injury. The driver sped away, weaving through traffic until he reached a secure area. Rio has become notorious for daylight robberies, where luxury vehicles are often targeted by heavily armed gangs looking for quick ransom or resale. Videos like this one reveal just how fragile safety can feel, even for those who think they're protected behind bulletproof glass. Gas station mishap at a busy gas station. A routine refueling turned catastrophic in seconds. A man filling up his white sedan absent-mindedly opened his door to adjust something inside, completely unaware that a massive car carrier was driving past. In an instant, the trailer's edge clipped the open door, ripping it clean off its hinges with a thunderous crunch. Startled, the driver stumbled backward, staring at the mangled remains of what had been his door just moments before. No one was hurt, but the financial damage was immense. Security footage of the incident quickly went viral, with commenters calling it a painful lesson in awareness. Experts later noted how such accidents happen frequently at tight fueling stations, where large trucks and smaller vehicles share close quarters. The takeaway was simple but vital. Always check your surroundings before stepping out or opening a car door. One careless move can cause a disaster in the blink of an eye. On a remote trail in Brazil, a motorcyclist explores dense jungle terrain on a modest dirt bike, its small engine echoing faintly through the canopy. The clip feels tranquil until the sound of heavy breathing fills the air, followed by something far stranger. A low guttural growl, unlike any known animal call. The man cuts his engine and listens. The noise grows louder, circling him. He looks around, but nothing moves. This type of footage surfaces often online, fueling debates about cryptids and unknown species. Yet many local biologists believe such sounds belong to large jungle predators, possibly jaguars, whose roars distort when echoing through uneven terrain. Still, others aren't convinced. The biker himself later claimed he felt a vibration under his feet, as if something massive was moving just beyond sight. While the internet argued over explanations, animal, supernatural, or staged, one thing remains certain: whatever stalked those woods that day made even seasoned locals uneasy. Whether real creature or hoax, the audio alone is enough to raise the hairs on anyone's neck. This disturbing scene unfolded on October 17, 2025, inside a small cafe in Nizhny-Kamsk, Russia. Two intoxicated men were seated at a corner table when, without warning, one of them drew a gun and fired multiple shots at a female employee working nearby. Chaos erupted instantly. Customers dove to the floor while others ran for cover. Fortunately, the weapon turned out to be an air pistol, but even then, it caused painful injuries and trauma to the victim. Both men were arrested moments later, their staggering and slurred speech captured on video as officers detained them. Police reports suggest the motive was purely senseless. No argument, no provocation, just reckless aggression fueled by alcohol. The young woman was treated for wounds and released, but the mental scars of being attacked at her own workplace are harder to heal. Incidents like this reflect a troubling pattern across Russia's nightlife scene, where violence fueled by intoxication continues to rise despite stricter regulations. A dramatic scene unfolded in Asia when a motorcyclist attempted to cross a road, completely overtaken by floodwaters. Despite urgent warnings from nearby residents, the water surged rapidly, transforming the street into a rushing current. As the rider pressed forward, his motorbike lost traction and was swept sideways. Within seconds, he was thrown off, tumbling into the brown, churning water. Onlookers screamed for him to turn back, but the current was already carrying him downstream. In a desperate struggle, the man clawed his way toward a patch of shallow ground, pulling himself to safety while his bike vanished beneath the flood. The motorcycle was never recovered. The footage, both terrifying and mesmerizing, serves as a cautionary lesson. Never underestimate the force of moving water. Even a few inches of depth can lift and carry away vehicles, and a moment of overconfidence can easily turn into a life-threatening mistake. Brazilian journalist Lenilo Zhao became part of the story he was reporting when this footage was filmed. He was covering the disappearance of a 13-year-old girl named Reza near a local river. To demonstrate how someone might have vanished, Lenilo waded waist-deep into the murky water while explaining to viewers how strong the current could be. Moments later, his tone changes, pauses, glances down, and says he felt something soft brush against his leg.
Olha a diferença aqui já onde eu estou agora, ó. Então, pessoal, e ainda tem a correnteza. Aqui já, olha, ó, um passinho para frente, A água já está praticamente me cobrindo. Então o risco aqui é muito grande, é muito grande. Ainda mais para jovens, não sei se elas sabiam nadar. Olha, andei pouquinho aqui, ó. A água já está acima do meu peito, para você ver a situação. Se eu andar um pouquinho aqui, deixa eu ver aqui. Ó, vou andar mais. Ó a fundura aqui, ó. Ui. Eu acho que tinha um negócio aqui no fundo da água. Não, era mole. Será que não é ela, não? Acho que foi pra aí. Tem certeza? Sabe nadar, menino? Hã? Olha bem aqui. Vem ali, ó. Eu vou lá. Não vou não, eu tenho medo. Parecia um braço. Onde é que eu tava? Era bem aqui assim. Parecia um braço.
When rescuers investigate the exact spot, they discover what nobody wanted to believe: Breeze's body, trapped beneath the water's surface. The clip, though difficult to watch, reveals the tragic irony of the situation. The journalist unintentionally located the missing girl during his broadcast. Authorities later confirmed that she had drowned days earlier while swimming with friends. Lanilo's raw reaction on camera, shock, disbelief, and grief, turned this report into one of the most haunting live discoveries ever captured. What began as a demonstration turned into a heartbreaking conclusion to a family search. On the morning of January 13, 2024, residents of Dak Lak Province, Vietnam, witnessed nature's raw and unpredictable power. A centuries-old banyan tree that had stood for generations along Phan Chu Trinh Street suddenly split apart. One of its massive trunks gave way and came crashing down across the road. Traffic was light at the time, as many motorists had stopped at a nearby red light, a detail that prevented an even greater disaster, but tragedy struck nonetheless. When a woman on a motorbike was caught directly beneath the falling wood, bystanders rushed to pull her from the wreckage, calling for help as shattered branches covered the street. Another motorist in the opposite lane swerved to avoid the collapse, losing balance and skidding across the pavement. Within minutes, police and emergency crews arrived, cutting through the heavy branches to rescue those trapped and clear the debris. Several vehicles were destroyed and nearby homes suffered structural damage. The incident left the community shaken, reminding everyone that even the most familiar landmarks can turn deadly without warning. In a moment both frightening and oddly surreal, surveillance footage from a beauty salon captured an unexpected crash that stunned viewers worldwide. Two female employees were chatting quietly near the reception desk when, without warning, a woman on a motorbike came crashing straight through the glass door. The vehicle slammed into the desk, scattering supplies, smashing furniture and throwing the driver to the floor. The stunned employees instinctively jumped back, then rushed forward to help her. Miraculously, no one was seriously injured. The woman who had driven through the storefront suffered only minor bruises, though she appeared dazed and embarrassed. Witnesses later speculated that the crash may have been caused by a sudden throttle mistake, a momentary confusion between the brake and accelerator that sent the motorbike surging forward. The viral clip sparked laughter and disbelief online, but it also highlighted the importance of caution in confined spaces, where even a second's lapse in control can end in chaos. In Dehradun, India, campers gather at Rajaji National Park, setting up tents near the tree line, playing music, and lighting lanterns late into the night. But what begins as an evening of fun soon provokes an unexpected visitor.
भाई बजा सॉन्ग बजा तेज आवाज में ना छेड़ो भाई तेज आवाज में बजा दो बजा.
From the darkness, an elephant emerges, drawn and agitated by the bright lights and noise. The massive creature charges toward the camp, trumpeting furiously. Its calf lingers nearby, adding to the tension. The panicked campers scatter, but not fast enough. The elephant rams into a parked tractor trolley filled with equipment and people, flipping it onto its side with ease. Screams echoes the group, scrambles to safety. Forest rangers later explained that elephants often react aggressively to sound pollution, especially when protecting young ones. In this case, the mother's instinct led to chaos. Thankfully, everyone survived, though several suffered fractures and bruises. The footage later served as a stark educational piece on why respecting wildlife boundaries isn't optional, it's essential. Thanks for watching. Stay vigilant, friends.